So it was this sense of like, I'm not good enough. You don't love me enough, or I'm not good enough to love, or there's something about me that is not enough for you to get up off the couch and want to engage with me. And I had to start healing from that place and understanding that my parents or any other person around me was not going to be able to heal that part, because that was a relationship to self.
We got the amazing, one-of-a-kind Jess King in the building right now. Can everybody make some noise for Jess King?
I'm doing a bike ride. I'm doing a bike ride right now. Right?
So we really wanted to structure this like a Peloton ride. You come in, you start the warm-up, we go up the hill, down the hill, end off nice and smooth.
How many rides have you taken?
A good amount.
Yeah.
I'm not an advanced rider yet.
You're not a novice.
Yeah, but enough to know like a roadmap.
Sam is up to speed on the Peloton lingo.
Well, I'm ready. I'm warmed up. Let's go.
The hill.
You like the hill. So we're gonna talk about a lot of things today. First of all, thank you for coming, and it is truly our honor to have you here today. So thank you very much. One of the things that I like to do is kind of go back. So let's talk about your early childhood a little bit. Where you came from, all that kind of stuff. Give our audience, the overview of Jess King, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, let's see if I can capture it. So I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. My father was born and raised there, but my mother is from Santiago, Chile. So I grew up with this dichotomy of like a Southern culture, but very Latin traditions in my home, speaking Spanish in my home, and in the South, that's just, it doesn't fit. It doesn't feel like it fit, and I didn't feel like I fit in.
Right.
So I found my outlet, my safe place to really express, because I had a lot of emotions and energy as a child, very similar to being like a spicy Latina. And I didn't know what to do with it except to move into dance. So I started dance when I was like 2 or 3, and I never quit, and it just keeps building into more training, weekends, competing, and that became for me an anchor point, a safe place because school, I just was like, was just annoyed by all of it all, the popularity contest of it all, the feeling like I had to be like a certain way or have a certain amount of money, or just, it was so intense for me. But at dance, it didn't matter. We were all equal. It was just a place to be creative. And so that's how I survived my childhood. My parents divorced when I was 4.
Okay.
And as much as I did experience them coming together to still be there and raise me, and it felt like they were a unified front, there was still a lot of trauma that happened from that divorce. So it wasn't until I got into my 20s when I kept repeating this pattern of dysfunctional relationships, toxic relationships, abusive relationships. I'm like, what the f- going on?
You could say that. You can say the F word. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm just warming up. It's
the warm-up.
It's the warm-up. That I really was like, let me figure this part of my life out. And that's when I understood how much of my childhood had impacted the decisions and the behaviors that were still showing up as an adult.
Sure.
So were you aware at that time, like, were you going through anxiety as a child, depression, or like you said, was it not until you were able in your, mid to late 20s that you were aware of what those symptoms were back then, or what was happening?
I think in the 80s, it was not so common to be diagnosed with anxiety or depression as a child. I think like Ritalin had just hit the scene, and ADHD, and I'm extremely clinically ADHD, but I was never ever treated for it because I had all of the support and outlets that I needed in terms of dance, school, even the social element of school sucked for me, but like I liked to achieve, and I liked making straight A's and, stimulating that part of my brain and my life. But no, I wasn't aware. Looking back, I've gone to my mom many times and be like, why didn't you put me in therapy?
Yeah.
Like, having these like, I would have more like cry, scream episodes, like pay attention to me. And then that all translated to like crazy abandonment issues. Like my partner just going to work and me being like, no, you know, like nuts.
So let me ask you a question. Did going back, so when your parents got divorced, were both your parents still in your world, in your life, or like did your dad leave or did your mom leave?
Right. So my dad went to Charleston, South Carolina for the first part of it.
Okay.
So there was like a year or two of me going back and forth every other weekend.
Got it.
That ping pong game that really sucked.
Sure.
But what really, really sucked for me is that once my parents got divorced, my dad fell into a very deep clinical depression. So much so that he didn't work for 12 years of my life.
Wow.
So here you have me, this award-winning, high-achieving, high-performing child who's like an only child, by the way. So on the weekends with dad, it was just the two of us. I'm like, what are we doing? We're doing games, we're doing this, we're doing that. And it was like, I'm on the couch doing nothing. And so over time, I got frustrated. I used to ask Santa to bring my dad a job for Christmas, this like lack of understanding of like what's going on here. And asking my mom and her saying, well, your dad's sick. But at 10, 12 years old, you think sick of like fever, stomachache, whatever. You're like, how does this, it's not making sense. So she didn't have the language to communicate with me. And what I really, really wanted, even as a young child, and what I'm going to seek to do as a parent, is just give your kids the facts. Tell them give them the truth, because they have so much agency. And I was smart enough then to truly be able to process that, but because I didn't have like the full truth, oh, your dad's sick, it wasn't like it's this, I couldn't put it together.
It's funny because I get a lot of, because of my situation with Jack, my son, and everything that happened, it's how do you deal with it? How do you, is it too much? Is it not enough? Is like, do you talk? I get all these questions all the time, and a lot of it, is really difficult to answer because you don't know as a kid how to deal with it, and certainly when you as a parent, you don't know either. So it's just interesting to me. I'm curious about the disabandonment thing, right? Like, did you feel deep down that you were, abandoned, and what did it look like for you?
I think the deep down that I finally landed on was the sense that I'm not good enough.
Right.
And I think this is something that we all share. Like as I went, because I went in deep, right? So once I started healing, going to therapy, then I was like, oh wow, this is so profound. So I went into life coaching to really learn how to facilitate that conversation with other people and get them to start understanding that you were born naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And that for me was like blew the gates open, blew my heart open. So it was this sense of like, I'm not good enough. You don't love me enough, or I'm not good enough to love, or there's something about me that is not enough for you to get up off the couch and want to engage with me. And I had to start healing from that place and understanding that my parents or any other person around me was not going to be able to heal that part, because that was a relationship to self.
Yeah. Right.
This understanding that no, I am whole. I was born whole. I am enough. I am more than enough. People say I'm too much.